Okay, hey everybody, how are y'all today? Today we're going to do Miss Fields peanut butter cookies. It's a cookie that reminds me a lot of lunchroom cookies, cafeteria cookies from when you went to elementary school. We call it elementary school here. I think some people call it grade school. So they remind me a lot of the ones that I grew up with. Miss Fields has a lot of cookies that we like, our family really likes, so we tend to lean more towards her cookies. You can watch one of my other videos on chocolate chip cookies, that's also her recipe. So this is going to be her peanut butter cookie recipe, and I do mess with it like I do everything else. Instead of using butter, which is what it calls for, regular butter, I use butter flavored Crisco because it just does better. Tastes better, texture's better, everything. So let's get started. I've already got my flour, my sugar, both of my sugars in here. We use self-rising flour. It does actually, to me, a lot better than adding things into the flour, like baking powder and salt. It's already got it in there, so I use Walmart brand. It was 2 cups of flour. We got 1 1/4 cup of white sugar and 1/4 cup of brown sugar. The recipe calls for dark brown sugar, but I like the color of the light brown sugar, so I don't even buy dark brown sugar. If you want to do that, you can, but I'm here to tell you with a light brown sugar, it's just as good, if not better. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking my dry ingredients and I'm whisking them to try to get any lumps out. This does take a second. Doesn't have to be perfect or anything. Okay. So I just kind of mix it all together there. Make sure I got everything. I'm going to have to put this in a bigger bowl. So let's dump all this in here. 2 cups of flour, 1 1/4 of brown sugar, 1 1/4 cup of white sugar. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to soften our Crisco or butter, whichever one you use. I've already done that. It's right here. So I think we're going to go ahead and add it. I'm going to go ahead and add this. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and add 3 eggs. We have our own chicken, so I usually like to break the eggs into a bowl anyway, just to make sure that we don't get any shell in whatever we're baking. And also just as a precaution, that's what we do. We own our own chicken, so that's what we do with eggs beforehand. So there's 3 eggs. And I think there's some vanilla in this recipe, and it calls for 2 teaspoons. You can use extract or flavoring. Doesn't matter. There's 1 and 2. Okay. I would like to, or I always do, I mix my ingredients that I've got in there so far together before I add the peanut butter. The peanut butter is the very last thing because it's just sticky and a mess. And you can do this with a mixer. What I typically do when I make her cookies, I usually start by hand. And then at the very end, I just get in there with my hands and mix it together that way. It just goes together better that way. And instead of a batter type cookie, you're going to have like it's more like a dough. So before I have to get in there with my hands on this, we're going to add the peanut butter, and then we're going to stir again. And then the next time you see it after that, it'll be all combined because I got in there with my hands. So let me get that ready to go. It calls for 1 cup of creamy peanut butter, could probably use any peanut butter you want, but I never make these cookies without Jif peanut butter. That's our favorite. But to me, it's the closest thing to the real thing, you know, more natural thing. It's probably not, but it sure tastes like it is. So you get it out of this jar, scoop it into a 1-cup measure. Now your peanut butter doesn't have to be softened or anything. I would advise, if you are the type of family that leaves yours in the fridge, because I know some people do that, you do need to let it set out for a few hours so that it can get room temperature. That would probably be the best thing to do. But don't heat it up. Don't melt it. Not sure what it would do to the cookie. It probably would not be the same consistency. These are like really, really good. I cut out sugar recently for the 100th time, and it's gonna be really hard to not eat these. But I wanted to show you this recipe because it's really, really a yummy recipe to have. Okay, so you go ahead and you combine or stir in the peanut butter. And you'll find that your dry ingredients didn't combine all the way the first time with everything but the peanut butter, if that makes sense. But now with the peanut butter, you're able to grab the rest of it and put it in there, and it's really tough to stir. So I would imagine a mixer would be even harder. So I'm just gonna get in here with my hands and try to combine it the best I can. And it's a little bit sticky, so put a little bit of flour or a little bit of sugar, just a little bit, on your hands, just like you would biscuits. Okay, so this dough is very sticky right now, so I'm gonna set it in the fridge for just a few minutes, and then I'll get back to you with it from there. Okay, so I chilled the dough just long enough to where I could kind of mess with it. 30 minutes is fine. I think I did it for less than that. Usually what I do is I get about that much, about a tablespoon or a heaping tablespoonful. And I take off the spoon and I kind of make it round, and then I just lightly smush it down. And yes, smush is a word. With my fingers. You could do the crisscross thing with the fork dipped in sugar if you want to. I used to when my kids were little because I didn't want to do the fork dipped in the sugar. I didn't want them to have any more sugar than they're already having. So I would take the fork and dip it in water or under a running faucet, either one, to where it just gets just enough on there so it wouldn't stick, because that's the whole purpose of that little crisscross motion, for it to beat in the sugar, and so that it won't stick to the fork. So when you bring it up, the cookie stays down. These do pretty good, and I don't have anything on my hands. I think that's probably because of the Crisco. The reason we use Crisco instead of butter is because butter makes it more crispy, and we're wanting a more softer cookie. So kind of a chewy type cookie, not a crumbly, crispy type. Okay, that's our last one. You should have already preheated your oven to 300 degrees. 300, not 350. And then you're gonna have to watch these. I think she gives a cook time of 8 to 22 minutes. And then I'll show you how to check to, you know, when it's time to take them out. It's gonna form just a little bit of a tan edge around the edges of it. You don't want the whole thing tan under there. And then I let it sit on the cookie sheet for about 1 solid minute before I take it off. If you only take it out when it's lightly brown around the edges. So I'll show you that in just a few minutes. Okay, so they've come out of the oven and they're still very soft. So I have to lightly take them loose from the other cookies because they got too close. Lightly take them loose. And I always put oil on my cookie sheets because I don't want them to get too dark. So if you can see, right around the edges, this one got just a teeny bit too brown on the edge. But I've let them sit here about a minute. And what you do is you lightly take them off and set them somewhere to cool. Like I just have the one cooling rack, but you can get like a paper towel and lay on your counter and set the cookies on those, and that'll help them cool without kind of making them sweat, because these are still hot. And what's going to happen is the cookies are going to harden up slightly, but it's not going to be too crispy. It's actually going to be quite perfect. And I like to make our cookies big, so that's why they look so large. That's trying to make room over here for these. That's how you make them. They're really, really yummy. So I just keep on until I get them all off the cookie sheet. So just remember what I said. This doesn't say it. I'll try to remember to put a note below. It doesn't say it in the recipe. When you start to see the edges turn just a lightly color brown, take the cookie sheet out of the oven, or the baking sheet, whatever you want to call it, out of the oven. Let the cookies sit for 1 solid minute, just 1 minute. Because they're going to continue to cook on that hot sheet. And then after that, lightly take them off. And then let them cool somewhere else. And you will have the perfect cookie. You're going to love them, I swear. Y'all have a good day. Comment below. And please like and subscribe. See you next time.